March 18th is not an ordinary date. There are moments in the spiritual realm when heaven interrupts time, when eternity touches the calendar, and when a warning is released not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. And this is one of those moments. On March 18th, Archangel Michael alerts you right now. This is not symbolic language. This is not poetic exaggeration. This is a divine interruption. There is an urgency in the spirit, and it concerns your family, your finances, and your future. The message is clear. You have 5 minutes to protect what heaven has entrusted to you. Ignore this, and generational curses continue. You may have felt something unusual stirring lately. A tension, a restlessness, grandson of stagnant financial pressure. Perhaps strange misunderstandings inside your home. Perhaps fear about the future creeping in without explanation. These are not random events. Patterns do not repeat by accident. Cycles do not continue without a cause. And when heaven sends an alert, it is because something is attempting to extend its influence beyond its expiration date. Archangel Michael is known as a defender, a warrior, a protector assigned to stand against forces that seek to devour destiny. When his alert is sounded, it is not for minor inconvenience. It is because a line is being drawn. March 18th marks a spiritual checkpoint, a decision point, a moment where what has followed your bloodline can either be confronted or allowed to advance into another generation. Some of you have seen this pattern before. Financial struggle that never seems to fully break. Opportunities that almost happen but collapse at the last moment. Marriages in your family that fracture in similar ways. Health issues that repeat. Delays that seem inherited rather than accidental. You have worked hard. You have prayed. You have tried to move forward. Yet something invisible seems to pull backward just as you begin to gain ground. This is what makes this alert so critical. The danger is not always loud. Sometimes it is subtle continuation. Generational curses do not always look dramatic. They often look like normal. A normal debt. Normal conflict. Normal anxiety. Normal limitation. But what if what has been normalized was never meant to be permanent? 5 minutes may not sound like much, but 5 minutes of spiritual awareness can break 30 years of repetition. 5 minutes of alignment can close doors that have been open for decades. 5 minutes of decisive obedience can shift the direction of your bloodline. The reason this message is urgent is because windows in the spirit do not remain open forever. There are divine opportunities that must be responded to when they are presented. March 18th carries weight because it represents a spiritual visitation. A moment where heaven says, pay attention. The warning is not meant to create fear. It is meant to awaken authority. There is something attempting to attach itself to your future. Something attempting to convince you that struggle is your inheritance. That instability is normal. That lack is permanent. That conflict is unavoidable. But the alert from Archangel Michael declares something different. You were never meant to carry what you have been carrying. Your family is not designed for endless cycles. Your finances are not destined for constant leakage. Your future is not written in limitation. But cycles continue when they are ignored. Patterns persist when they are tolerated. And what is left unchallenged becomes established. The reason this message must come now is because continuation is at the door. There is a spiritual momentum that wants to roll forward into the next season of your life. And if it is not interrupted, it will attempt to secure legal ground through passivity. Silence can be agreement. Delay can be permission. Indifference can be consent. But you are not here by accident. You did not stumble onto this message randomly. There is precision in this moment, You are hearing this because heaven desires interruption, not continuation. Protection, not repetition. Liberation, not inheritance of struggle. Archangel Michael's alert is not about panic. It is about positioning. It is about standing in the gap before something crosses into territory it does not belong. 5 minutes. 5 intentional minutes to become aware, to declare, to align, to refuse what has followed you. 5 minutes to shift the atmosphere of your household. 5 minutes to say, it stops here. If this warning is ignored, cycles continue quietly. They embed deeper. They become harder to recognize because they feel familiar. And familiarity is the most dangerous disguise of bondage. What feels normal can be the very thing that needs to be broken. But here is the revelation. The fact that you are hearing this means there is still time. The fact that this alert is reaching you means heaven has not withdrawn its protection. The warning itself is mercy. The interruption itself is grace. The urgency itself is evidence that your family matters, your finances matter, and your future matters. March 18th is not random. It is marked. And when heaven marks a day, it is because a decision must be made. Will the patterns continue, or will they be confronted? Will silence allow repetition, or will awareness activate protection? This is the hour to choose interruption over inheritance of struggle. This is the moment to recognize that 5 minutes, when aligned with heaven, can change the trajectory of generations. And what you do next will determine whether cycles are permitted to advance or commanded to cease. There is a reason this alert is happening now. Not last year. Not months from now. Not at some undefined future moment. March 18th carries timing, and timing in the spirit is never accidental. When heaven sounds an alarm, it is because a cycle has reached a threshold. Something that has been tolerated quietly is attempting to solidify itself permanently. And before that happens, divine intervention steps in. Generational cycles do not begin loudly. They begin subtly. One unresolved compromise becomes a pattern. One season of lack becomes a lifestyle. One repeated fear becomes an inherited mindset. Over time, what was temporary becomes familiar, and what becomes familiar is rarely questioned. It is how cycles survive. They hide in routine. They disguise themselves as personality traits, as family history, as just the way things are. But there is a difference between history and destiny. Many families unknowingly carry spiritual patterns that repeat across decades. Financial instability that seems to strike at the same stage of life. Marital tension that mirrors previous generations. Business failures that occur just when success is near. Even emotional struggles that echo from parent to child. It can look natural on the surface, but spiritually, repetition without resolution signals unfinished ground. This is why the warning is happening now. March 18th represents a spiritual interruption point. A divine moment when heaven exposes what has been operating quietly. Because cycles lose power when they are revealed. What thrives in secrecy weakens under awareness. And what hath been repeating in your bloodline is being brought into the light so it can no longer continue unchecked. You may be the one chosen to break what others endured. Sometimes the strongest person in a family is not the one who appears powerful, but the one who becomes aware. The one who decides it stops with me. That decision shifts more than personal experience. It alters generational momentum. It interrupts spiritual agreements that were never consciously signed but were inherited through silence and normalization. Financial struggle, for example, is often treated as purely economic. But there are moments when it is deeper than numbers. When money slips through your hands despite wisdom. When opportunities evaporate without explanation. when fear around provision dominates decisions. These patterns can pass down like traditions, and unless someone recognizes the pattern and confronts it spiritually, it continues. The same is true for family conflict. Certain arguments repeat in different forms. Certain emotional reactions mirror older generations. Certain deviance appear predictable. When cycles are not broken, they evolve but remain present. That is why Archangel Michael's alert is precise. It is not vague encouragement. It is targeted urgency. Because the spiritual realm operates on legal ground, when something is allowed repeatedly, it attempts to claim territory. And when no one challenges it, it deepens its roots. But here is the shift. Heaven never exposes without offering a way to close the door. March 18th is not just about warning. It is about opportunity. An opportunity to become conscious of what had been unconscious. An opportunity to reject inherited limitations. An opportunity to align your household with protection rather than repetition. And this is where your response matters. You are not listening to this message by accident. You are here because something in your spirit recognizes truth. And when truth is recognized, responsibility follows. Not in fear, but in authority. Awareness places power back in your hands. It reminds you that cycles are not unbreakable. Patterns are not permanent. And what has been repeating does not have to define the next generation. But this message cannot stay with you alone. If this warning resonates with your spirit, if you can see even one pattern that needs interruption, then act now. Like this video as a sign of agreement that cycles are being broken. Subscribe to this channel so you remain connected to prophetic alerts that protect your household. Share this message with someone in your family who needs to hear it. And comment below that you are choosing interruption over continuation. When you engage, you are not just supporting a channel. You are spreading awareness that can shield another family from unseen repetition. Because what happens when one person awakens, others follow. The reason this warning is happening now is because delay strengthens patterns. Silence reinforces repetition, but immediate response weakens inherited ground. March 18th is your moment to respond before continuation becomes cemented. You may have wondered why certain struggles seemed attached to your family name, why certain breakthroughs felt delayed, why progress required more resistance than expected. Now you understand. Exposure is happening because liberation is available. Heaven does not interrupt without purpose, and the purpose is protection. This is not about fear of curses. It is about awareness of cycles. It is about recognizing that what was tolerated yesterday does not have to be accepted tomorrow. And the power to shift that direction begins with acknowledgement. The alert is sounding because you are strong enough to respond. Because your household matters enough to protect. Because your future carries weight. And because what continues unchecked today could attempt to define tomorrow. But not if you stand now. March 18th is your interruption point. And what you choose in this moment will echo beyond you. There is a battle happening around your household that you cannot see with natural eyes. It does not knock on the door. It does not announce itself loudly. It moves quietly through thoughts, emotions, pressure, and subtle division. And because it is invisible, it is often dismissed. But what you cannot see can still influence what you experience. Archangel Michael's alert on March 18th is not just about external problems. It is about unseen spiritual activity that targets the core of your life, your family, your finances, and your future. The reason these three areas are targeted is simple. They shape legacy. If an attack can destabilize your home, drain your resources, and cloud your future, it can weaken generations. Spiritual warfare rarely begins with chaos. It begins with small openings, a lingering offense that is never resolved, a fear about money that is never confronted, a belief that struggle is simply part of your identity. These openings may seem harmless, but over time they create patterns, and patterns become pathways. Have you noticed how certain conflicts in your household repeat with different details but the same emotional outcome? Have you observed how financial pressure appears just when stability begins to form? Have you felt an unexplainable heaviness when thinking about long-term plans? These are not coincidences. They are indicators. The invisible battle often targets agreement. Not dramatic agreement, but subtle acceptance. Acceptance that this is just how our family is. Acceptance that we never seem to get ahead. Acceptance that peace never lasts. When acceptance settles in, resistance fades. And when resistance fades, cycles strengthen. This is why awareness is powerful. The moment you recognize that something is operating beyond the surface, you shift from victim to guardian. You stop reacting and begin discerning. You begin to question patterns instead of accommodating them. And that shift alone weakens the invisible structure that has been quietly influencing your environment. Finances are often the first battlefield because provision represents stability. If provision is unstable, fear increases. And fear alters decisions, and can cause rushed choices, strained relationships, and compromised faith. Over time, financial instability can become a defining family narrative. Children grow up expecting lack. Adults make decisions rooted in survival rather than vision. And the cycle continues. Family unity is another primary target. Division does not have to be explosive to be effective. It can be emotional distance, miscommunication, assumptions, unspoken resentment. When unity weakens, covering weakens. And when covering weakens, vulnerability increases. Then there is the future. Dreams delayed repeatedly. Opportunities that dissolve. A sense that progress is always just out of reach. When future vision is clouded, motivation declines. And when motivation declines, momentum stops. But here is what changes everything. Invisible does not mean invincible. What operates in secrecy loses strength in exposure. The alert from Archangel Michael is exposure. Is heaven revealing that something has been attempting to linger beyond its permission? And once it is revealed, it can be confronted. You are not powerless in this battle. You are positioned. The authority to protect your household begins with refusal. Refusal to normalize what should be challenged. Refusal to accept repeated instability. Refusal to allow inherited struggles to define your children's future. Awareness activates authority, and authority shifts atmosphere. But timing matters. When heaven highlights a pattern, it is because there is a window to close it. The 5 minutes referenced in this alert are symbolic of immediate action. Not panic, not fear, but decisive alignment. A moment where you stand and say, this pattern ends here. There may be resistance when you do. Not always visible resistance, but internal pushback. Doubt, fatigue, distraction. These are common responses when cycles feel threatened. But resistance is confirmation that something is being confronted. You may be the first in your family to recognize this invisible battle clearly. That does not make you isolated. It makes you appointed. Every generational shift begins with one person who becomes aware and chooses differently. And here is the truth. The atmosphere around your household can change faster than you think. When spiritual agreement shifts, momentum shifts. When declaration replaces silence, patterns lose permission. When awareness replaces assumption, repetition weakens. This is not about fear of hidden forces. It is about confidence in divine protection. Archangel Michael's alert is not announcing defeat. It is announcing that defense have been activated. But defense requires cooperation. Protection requires participation. Right now, even as you listen, something is being stirred within you. A realization, a clarity, a sense that certain struggles were never meant to continue. That realization is not random. It is confirmation. And what comes next will reveal how to turn this awareness into decisive protection. What is about to be uncovered will show you why this moment is more strategic than you imagined. You will be glad you remained attentive for what is about to unfold. Type "My house is covered" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 314 is now activated. What you just heard about the invisible battle is why this mission cannot slow down. There are families right now who are fighting what they cannot see, and God is using this message as light in their darkness. When you sow into this ground through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not supporting a channel. You are releasing oil where there is dryness and fire where there is silence. The Lord says, as you give, it shall be given unto you, not as theory, but as living promise activated through obedience. I feel led to say this clearly. Your seed today becomes someone else's breakthrough tomorrow. Do not miss the moment to turn awareness into impact. Release your seed through super thanks, join as a member, or use the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, and watch heaven multiply what you place in His hands. There are moments in history when everything changes in a single decision. Not because the moment is loud, but because it is appointed. March 18th represents one of those appointed moments. The alert from Archangel Michael is not simply about awareness. It is about timing. Because in the spiritual realm, timing determines access, and access determines outcome. The concept of a 5-minute window may sound small, almost insignificant, but heaven does not measure time the way humans do. 5 minutes of intentional alignment can outweigh 5 years of passive endurance. 5 minutes of focused declaration can interrupt patterns that have existed for decades. What makes the window powerful is not its length, but its precision. Throughout spiritual history, divine windows have always required response. When a warning was given, action followed. When instruction was released, obedience determined protection. The pattern is consistent. Revelation invites responsibility, and responsibility activates covering. The danger is not that the window is short. The danger is hesitation. Hesitation is subtle. It sounds reasonable. I will address this later. I need more clarity. I will act when things settle down. But divine windows do not wait for convenience. They open with purpose and close with consequence. Not as punishment, but as order. Because the spiritual realm operates on alignment, not delay. March 18th is a marked interruption. It is a checkpoint between continuation and transformation. And the 5-minute window symbolizes immediate alignment. A decision to stand consciously rather than drift unconsciously. A choice to respond rather than postpone. Why is timing so critical right now? Because cycles gain strength when they are left uninterrupted. Patterns deepen when they are ignored. What is tolerated expands. And when expansion reaches a certain point, it becomes harder to reverse. This is why heaven intervenes before continuation becomes cemented. Think about how quickly momentum can shift in everyday life. A single phone call can change a career. A single conversation can restore or damage a relationship. A single decision can redirect finances for years. If one natural decision can carry that much weight, how much more can a spiritually aligned decision impact generations? The 5-minute window represents intentional interruption. It is the act of pausing the cycle and saying, "This does not move forward." It is refusing automatic continuation. It is standing between yesterday's pattern and tomorrow's possibility. Divine windows also expose priorities. What you respond to quickly reveals what you value deeply. When heaven sounds an alert concerning your family, finances, and future, the response reveals where authority is placed. Indifference allows repetition. Engagement invites protection. There is also another dimension to timing, spiritual momentum. Just as negative patterns build momentum over time, so does obedience. When you respond immediately, you disrupt one momentum and initiate another. You replace passive continuation with active alignment. Many people wait for dramatic signs before taking action. But spiritual maturity recognizes subtle signals. The alert you are hearing now is not dramatic noise. It is strategic instruction. And strategic instruction requires strategic response. Imagine standing at a gate that had been left slightly open for years. Through that small opening, instability has entered. Fear has entered. Repetition has entered. Now imagine realizing that you have the authority to close it. The longer it remains open, the more comfortable the intrusion becomes. But the moment you shut it decisively, access changes. That is what the 5-minute window represents. It is not about rushing in panic. It is about moving in clarity. It is about using focus moments to declare, to renounce, to align, and to seal. It is about recognizing that small intentional acts could have generational impact. Divine mercy often appears as warning, and warning is evidence of care. If continuation were inevitable, there would be no alert. The fact that there is a warning means there is still time. The fact that there is urgency means there is still authority available to you. But mercy does not remove responsibility. This moment asks you to choose interruption over assumption, to choose awareness over habit, to choose protection over passivity. 5 minutes of conscious alignment can close doors that have remained open through unconscious agreement. Some may underestimate the power of such a small window, but it is often the smallest hinges that move the largest doors. It is often the quietest decisions that produce the most lasting shifts. March 18th is not about fear of missing something. It is about recognition of what is being offered. A chance to step into alignment before continuation solidifies. A chance to respond before repetition deepens. A chance to protect what matters most. Timing is everything because timing reveals readiness. And readiness determines outcome. Right now, you are standing at a spiritual intersection. Behind you are familiar patterns. Before you is the possibility of interruption. The 5-minute window is not just symbolic. It is an invitation to act decisively, intentionally, and immediately. Because when divine timing meets human obedience, cycles break. And when cycles break, generations breathe differently. The first protection step Archangel Michael is urging you to take on March 18th is this: seal your household. Before finances are stabilized, before future plans are secured, before external circumstances shift, the atmosphere of your home must be fortified. Because everything begins at home. Your household is the spiritual headquarters of your life. If it is unguarded, everything connected to it becomes vulnerable. Sealing your household does not mean living in fear. It means living in authority. It means recognizing that your home is not just walls and furniture. It is a spiritual environment. Words spoken there carry weight. Emotions released there create residue. Agreements made their established direction. When cycles repeat, they often anchor themselves inside the home first. This is why the first step is intentional declaration. What you speak inside your home matters more than you realize. Casual statements such as "we always struggle" or "nothing ever works for us" may seem harmless, but repeated words become embedded beliefs. Embedded beliefs become expectations, and expectations shape outcomes. To seal your household, you must begin by confronting language. On March 18th, within your 5-minute window, stand inside your home and declare alignment. Speak clearly that every inherited struggle loses permission to remain. Declare that fear is not authorized in your atmosphere. Announce that division has no access. You do not need complicated rituals. You need intentional authority. Authority is activated through awareness and agreement with divine order. When you consciously align your household with protection, you shift the environment. You move from passive occupancy to active guardianship. You become watchful over what enters emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Sealing your household also requires breaking silent agreements. Sometimes agreements are not spoken aloud, but they exist internally. Agreements like, "This is just how my family is," where we have always had conflict, where financial peace is not for us. These internal conclusions create invisible doors. To seal your household, those conclusions must be revoked. Revocation begins with recognition. Acknowledge the pattern. Name it privately before heaven. Then reject it. State clearly that it does not belong to your future. When you revoke agreement, you weaken the cycle's foundation. What once felt permanent begins to loosen. Another aspect of sealing your household is guarding entry points. Entry points are not only physical visitors. They include conversations, media, influences, and attitudes that shape atmosphere. If your home constantly absorbs negativity, fear-based information, and unresolved tension, it becomes difficult to maintain clarity. Protection requires intentional boundaries. Boundaries are not restrictions. They are preservation tools. They protect peace. They maintain unity. They reinforce stability. When your household is sealed, peace becomes more consistent. Clarity increases. Emotional reaction decreases. Not because challenges disappeared, but because access has changed. Archangel Michael's alert is emphasizing the home because generational cycles often anchor there first. If conflict becomes normalized at home, children internalize it. If scarcity language becomes routine, it becomes inherited thinking. If fear dominates conversation, it becomes expected reality. But if peace becomes declared, unity becomes practiced, and authority becomes exercised, a new inheritance is established. Sealing your household is also an act of positioning. You are positioning your home as protected territory. You are announcing that continuation of past struggles is no longer automatic. You are declaring that your home operates under divine covering. Do not underestimate the impact of this step. Many attempts to fix external problems while ignoring internal atmosphere. But atmosphere shapes resilience. A sealed home can withstand external pressure more effectively than an unguarded one. When unity and clarity fill a household, external instability loses influence. You may not see immediate dramatic change, but subtle shifts will begin. Conversations may feel calmer. Decision-making may become clearer. Tension may decrease. These are signs that atmosphere is aligning. When atmosphere aligns, cycles lose comfort. Remember, sealing your household is not a one-time emotional reaction. It is a conscious stance. It is choosing daily to protect what happens within your walls. It is choosing to speak life rather than repetition. It is choosing to guard unity rather than entertain division. On March 18th, your 5-minute window begins with this step because everything else flows from it. Financial alignment becomes stronger when home alignment is established. Future planning becomes clearer when emotional atmosphere is stable. Generational shifts become possible when the foundation is secured. Your household is not random territory. It is assigned territory. And assigned territory requires watchfulness. Stand in your home with awareness. Speak with intention. Revoke silent agreements. Establish boundaries. Declare protection. In doing so, you close invisible doors that may have remained slightly open for years. The first line of defense is not outside your walls. It is within them. And when your household is sealed, the momentum of repetition begins to weaken. Generational cycles lose their anchor, and protection becomes established not only for today, but for those who will come after you. After sealing your household, the second protection step Archangel Michael is urging you to take on March 18th is this: guard your finances spiritually. Many people treat money as purely practical, purely mathematical, purely dependent on markets, skills, or opportunity. But finances are more than numbers. They are connected to peace, to decision-making, to confidence, and to generational stability. When finances are unstable, pressure enters quickly. And pressure, if prolonged, can weaken even the strongest household. This is why finances are often targeted first in generational cycles. If instability can be introduced into your provision, fear follows. When fear follows, choices become reactive instead of strategic. You may accept opportunities beneath your calling. You may tolerate environments that drain you. You may delay vision because survival feels more urgent than purpose. Over time, financial strain can silently shape the identity of an entire family. Have you noticed how certain financial patterns seem to repeat? Debt that lingers across decades. Sudden unexpected expenses just when progress begins. Investments that collapse at critical moments. A cycle of barely enough. These patterns often disguise themselves as coincidence. But when repetition becomes consistent, it signals something deeper than randomness. Guarding your finances spiritually does not mean ignoring practical responsibility. It means recognizing that behind every visible flow of money, there is an invisible atmosphere of belief, agreement, and expectation. If your financial atmosphere is filled with fear, scarcity thinking, and inherited assumptions, then even good opportunities may not produce lasting stability. On March 18th, within your 5-minute window, you are being called to confront financial fear directly. Fear around provision is one of the strongest inherited mindsets. It can travel silently from parent to child. Statements like "money is always hard to keep," "where we never seem to get ahead," can become internal scripts. And internal scripts quietly influence decisions. Guarding your finances spiritually begins with confronting those scripts. Declare that scarcity is not your inheritance. Reject the belief that struggle is permanent. Speak clearly that your resources are protected from unnecessary leakage. You are not declaring wealth out of wishful thinking. You are establishing alignment with stability rather than fear. Another critical aspect of guarding finances is breaking agreement with chaos. Financial chaos is not only about lack of money, it is about lack of order. Disorder invites waste. Confusion invites poor decisions. When your financial environment feels unpredictable and unstable, it becomes easier for cycles to continue. Order creates clarity. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence strengthens provision. Take a moment to evaluate whether your financial decisions have been driven by fear or by vision. Fear-driven decisions usually feel rushed, pressured, and reactive. Fear-driven decisions feel intentional and strategic. Guarding your finances spiritually means shifting from reaction to intention. There is also a spiritual principle of stewardship. What you honor tends to increase in stability. When finances are treated casually or emotionally, they become inconsistent. But when they are handled with awareness, gratitude, and discipline, they gain structure. Structure limits unnecessary vulnerability. Many generational cycles of financial instability are rooted in unchallenged habits. Overspending to cope with stress, avoiding financial planning out of anxiety, ignoring warning signs because they feel overwhelming. These habits may not appear spiritual, but they create openings, and openings allow repetition. Archangel Michael's alert is not simply about rebuking lack. It is about strengthening discipline. Protection over finances includes wise management, intentional planning, and clear boundaries. When you combine spiritual declaration with practical stewardship, you close multiple doors at once. Another dimension to consider is generosity. Fear restricts generosity. Stability encourages it. When finances are guarded spiritually, generosity flows from strength rather than compulsion. Generosity rooted in fear can create further instability. But generosity rooted in order reinforces blessing. Ask yourself, have I unconsciously accepted financial instability as normal? Have I inherited patterns that I never questioned? Guarding your finances spiritually means refusing automatic repetition. It means choosing to rewrite the narrative. This does not require dramatic change overnight. It requires conscious alignment. Within your 5-minute window, declare protection over your income, your savings, your investments, and your opportunities. Speak stability into your resources. Announce that waste, loss, and confusion are not authorized in your financial life. You may not see immediate visible increase, but you will sense a shift in confidence. Fear will loosen its grip. Decision-making will become calmer. Anxiety will reduce. These internal shifts are signs that financial atmosphere is aligning. Remember, finances are not just about you. They affect your family. They influence your children's outlook. They determine what opportunities are available for the next generation. When you guard your finances spiritually, you are not only protecting present comfort, you are strengthening future stability. March 18th is your interruption point. Seal your household first, then guard your finances with authority and wisdom. Because when provision is protected, pressure decreases. When pressure decreases, unity strengthens. And when unity strengthens, generational cycles lose ground. Financial protection is not greed. It is stewardship. It is alignment. It is intentional guardianship over what has been entrusted to you. And when fear is replaced with authority, and chaos is replaced with order, the cycle of instability begins to weaken. After sealing your household and guarding your finances, the third protection step Archangel Michael is urging you to take on March 18th is this: secure your future generations. This is where the battle becomes bigger than you. This is where the alert moves beyond your personal comfort and touches legacy. Because generational cycles are not satisfied with influencing one life. They attempt to travel forward. What you tolerate today can echo tomorrow. Many people focus on surviving their present struggles without realizing that unresolved patterns often extend beyond their lifetime. Not because fate demands it, but because unbroken cycles naturally seek continuation. If instability becomes familiar in one generation, it can become expected in the next. If fear governs one household, it can quietly shape the mindset of children watching and learning. Securing your future generations means recognizing that you are standing in a pivotal position. You are not just living for today. You are shaping what your children, and even their children, will consider normal. If conflict is common, they will consider conflict ordinary. If lack is constant, they may assume lack is inevitable. If anxiety dominates, they may internalize worry as identity. But the opposite is also true. If peace becomes intentional, they will recognize peace as natural. If stability becomes visible, they will expect order. If faith becomes practiced, they will learn resilience. This is why March 18th is so significant. Be alert is not only about stopping cycles behind you. It is about preventing cycles ahead of you. Generational security begins with conscious breaking. Breaking does not mean dramatic confrontation with people. It means decisive rejection of inherited limitation. It means looking at patterns in your bloodline and saying, "This does not move forward." It means refusing to let children inherit vows that were never meant to define them. One of the most powerful ways cycles travel is through mindset. Children observe how adults respond to stress. They learn financial attitudes by watching decisions. They interpret relationships by observing conflict resolution. Even silence communicates. If problems are never addressed, avoidance becomes a pattern. If fear is never challenged, anxiety becomes familiar. Securing future generations requires modeling interruption. When your children see you confront fear calmly, they learn courage. When they see you manage finances intentionally, they learn stewardship. When they witness unity restored after disagreement, they learn reconciliation. The protection you establish today becomes their foundation tomorrow. Archangel Michael's alert is strategic because it recognizes timing. There are seasons when generational transfer becomes more pronounced. Transitions in life, new jobs, relocations, marriages, births, create open moments where patterns can either repeat or be redefined. March 18th represents such a redefining moment. Within your 5-minute window, declare covering over your children, whether they are young or grown. If you do not have children yet, declare protection over your future lineage. Speak stability into their path. Announce that inherited struggle ends with you. This is not symbolic language. Words establish direction. When spoken with intention, they have expectation. Do not underestimate the spiritual weight of standing in the gap. To stand in the gap means you take responsibility for breaking what others could not. Not with blame, not with bitterness, but with clarity. You recognize that previous generations may have endured what they did not understand. But now you understand. And understanding creates opportunity. You may wonder if one person can truly shift generational direction. The answer is yes. Every generational change in history began with one decision maker. One individual who refused automatic continuation. One person who chose differently. There may be resistance when you begin this shift. Sometimes children resist change because familiarity feels safe, even if it is unhealthy. Sometimes relatives misunderstand new boundaries. But remember, you are not securing approval. You are securing legacy. Another crucial aspect of securing future generations is teaching awareness. Help your children recognize patterns without instilling fear. Teach them to question a healthy cycle. Teach them that struggle is not identity. Teach them that stability is possible. When awareness becomes part of family culture, repetition loses its grip. Legacy is not only financial inheritance. It is emotional inheritance, spiritual inheritance, mental inheritance. If anxiety hath been inherited, break it by modeling peace. If financial chaos hath been inherited, break it by demonstrating order. If relational instability has been inherited, break it by practicing healthy communication. March 18th is not just about today's protection. It is about tomorrow's freedom. Imagine your grandchildren growing up without the weight you carried. Imagine them unaware of the battles that once repeated because they were interrupted before reaching them. That is what generational security looks like. It is quiet freedom. It is stability that feels normal. The alert from Archangel Michael is urgent because cycles attempt to move forward when unchallenged, but when confronted, they lose momentum. When rejected, they lose permission. When replaced with intentional stability, they lose inheritance rights. You are standing at a generational crossroads. Behind you are familiar patterns. Before you is a different legacy. The choice you make within this appointed window determines what travels forward. Secure your future generations not with fear, but with authority. Not with panic, but with clarity. Refuse automatic continuation. Declare a new inheritance. Model a new pattern. Establish a new expectation. Because when one generation decides to break the cycle, the next generation lives lighter. And that is the power of this moment. There is a sobering reality that must be faced. When a divine alert is ignored, cycles do not pause out of courtesy. They continue. They strengthen. They adapt. The warning given on March 18th through Archangel Michael is not dramatic exaggeration. It is a merciful interruption. But mercy unreceived does not stop momentum. It only removes the shield that was offered. Ignoring this alert does not mean something catastrophic happens overnight. That is not how generational continuation usually works. It works quietly. It deepens familiar patterns. It reinforces what already feels normal. And because it feels normal, it rarely feels urgent. That is the danger. If the household remains unsealed, subtle division may grow roots. Small misunderstandings may become consistent distance. Emotional disconnect may harden into isolation. Not because love is absent, but because unguarded patterns quietly expand. What could have been interrupted in one moment becomes a defining atmosphere over time. If finances remain spiritually unguarded, instability may repeat in cycles. Breakthroughs may continue to stall at critical moments. Unexpected losses may reappear just as stability begins forming. Fear-based decisions may quietly shape the future. And because each incident seems explainable on its own, the larger pattern remains unnoticed. If future generations are left unsecured, inherited mindsets may travel forward. Children may internalize anxiety they never needed to carry. They may adopt scarcity thinking before they ever experience lack. They may mirror relational patterns that were never confronted. And the cycle continues, not with dramatic force, but with quiet repetition. This is how generational curses sustain themselves, not through constant chaos, but through tolerated familiarity. The most dangerous phrase in any household is, "This is just how we are." That sentence seals patterns in place. It removes expectation of change. It normalizes instability. And when instability becomes identity, it becomes very difficult to challenge. Ignoring this alert is not rebellion in a loud sense. It is passivity. It is postponement. It is the assumption that there will always be another opportunity to confront what has been exposed. But divine windows are strategic. They appear when timing aligns with readiness. And when missed repeatedly, the resistance required to shift patterns increases. You may wonder, does one missed moment truly matter? Consider this. Every major shift in life is the result of a small decision. Every long-standing problem began as a minor tolerance. Repetition gains strength with time. The The longer it remains unchallenged, the more it embeds itself into expectation. If you ignore the alert, cycles gain confidence. They become less noticeable because they feel predictable. Financial pressure becomes routine. Emotional becomes common. Delayed progress becomes expected. And when expectation lowers, vision shrinks. But this is not spoken to produce fear. It is spoken to produce clarity. The alert exists because interruption is still possible. Consequences are not destiny. They are trajectory. Trajectory can change when direction changes. But direction only changes when decision is made. Another consequence of ignoring this alert is spiritual numbness. When awareness is repeatedly dismissed, sensitivity decreases. The ability to discern patterns weakens. What once felt concerning becomes tolerable. What once felt urgent becomes background noise. And spiritual numbness makes cycles easier to maintain. Generational continuation thrives in numbness. There is also the impact on identity. If struggle repeats long enough, it becomes self-definition. We are the family that always struggles. We are the ones who never catch a break. We are just unlucky. These identities become internal scripts. And internal scripts shape behavior. Behavior reinforces outcome. Outcome confirms identity. This is how cycles sustain themselves across decades. But here is the powerful truth. The fact that you are hearing this means numbness is not fully settled. Awareness is active. And awareness disrupts continuation. Still, the choice remains yours. Ignoring this alert does not remove protection entirely, but it limits participation in it. Heaven may warn, but it does not force. Authority is offered, not imposed. If you choose not to act, life may continue as usual, but usual may include the very repetition you wish would end. And here is where the shift becomes clear. The difference between continuation and interruption is rarely dramatic effort. It is intentional response. It is 5 focused minutes of alignment rather than years of unconscious tolerance. What is about to unfold next will reveal how one decisive choice can reverse decades of repetition. The turning point is closer than you think. And when you see it, you will understand why this moment was marked with such urgency. Type "the cycle ends" with me in the comments if you are choosing interruption today. Blessing code 622 is now activated. You just heard what happens when alerts are ignored, and that is exactly why this message must reach more households. Every time you give, you are helping break cycles in homes you may never physically enter. This is seed in fertile soil. This is manna released in a season of drought. Scripture declares that those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. And I declare that over every giver right now. If this message stirred you, then act prophetically. So through super thanks, step into deeper partnership through membership. Use the PayPal link in the description or the QR code appearing on your screen. Do not delay generosity when heaven is calling you to participate in generational freedom. There comes a moment in every generational battle when everything narrows down to a single decision. Not a loud decision. Not a dramatic public announcement. But a quiet, firm, internal choice. I will not delay this any longer. March 18th is the turning point. The alert has been sounded. The patterns have been exposed. The consequences of ignoring it have been made clear. Now everything rests on obedience over delay. Obedience is not weakness. It is alignment. It is the willingness to act when clarity arrives. Delay, on the other hand, often disguises itself as wisdom. It whispers, "Wait for a better time. Think about it more. You can handle this later." But the truth is, delay is how cycles survive exposure. When something is revealed but not confronted, it regains strength quietly. The turning point begins with ownership. Ownership says, "This pattern may not have started with me, but it will end with me." Ownership does not blame past generations. It does not condemn circumstances. It simply recognizes responsibility in the present moment. And responsibility is powerful, because the moment you accept responsibility for interruption, you regain authority over direction. Think about the weight of that. You are not responsible for what was handed to you, but you are responsible for what you pass forward. That realization alone can shift decades of repetition. Obedience in this moment looks simple, but it is profound. It means you actually take the 5 minutes seriously. You speak over your household. You declare protection over your finances. You secure your future generations intentionally. You do not treat it as symbolic. You treat it as strategic. Many people hear messages like this and feel stirred emotionally, but then life resumes and nothing changes. That is how delay wins. Emotion without action fades. Awareness without movement weakens. But obedience anchors revelation into reality. Imagine a family that has struggled financially for 3 generations. Each generation worked hard, but instability followed them. Now imagine one person in that family decides to confront both the spiritual and practical aspects intentionally. They begin managing resources differently. They refuse fear-based decisions. They speak stability instead of lack. Within years, the pattern shifts. What seemed like destiny was actually repetition. Or imagine a family where conflict defined relationships for decades. Arguments, distance, unresolved wounds. Then one individual chooses obedience. They pursue peace intentionally. They break silent resentment. They communicate differently. Slowly, the atmosphere changes. Children observe a new pattern. What was once inherited tension becomes inherited reconciliation. This is how turning points happen. Not through perfection, but through decisive obedience. The spiritual realm responds to alignment. When you choose obedience, you signal readiness. And readiness activates assistance. You are not standing alone in this decision. The alert from Archangel Michael is not a warning without support. It is a call backed by protection. But protection partners with participation. Right now, you may feel conviction stirring. That is not condemnation. It is clarity. It is the recognition that this moment matters more than you initially realized. And when clarity arrives, immediate response strengthens it. Do not underestimate the power of acting quickly. Quick obedience prevents overthinking from diluting resolve. It prevents doubt from negotiating you out of alignment. It prevents distraction from stealing focus. 5 minutes of decisive action today can redirect the next 50 years. And here is something important. Obedience does not require perfection. You may not have all the answers. You may not see the full outcome. But you act anyway. Because obedience is about trust in the instruction, not control over the result. This is your turning point. Behind you is repetition. Before you is redirection. The bridge between the two is obedience. If this message has awakened something in you, do not keep it to yourself. Like this video as a declaration that delay is over. Subscribe to this channel so you remain connected to prophetic alignment that protects your household. Share this message with someone who needs a turning point in their own family. And comment below that you are choosing obedience today. Your engagement is not just support. It is agreement. And agreement strengthens momentum. Momentum is shifting right now. The cycles that felt immovable begin to weaken the moment you move decisively. The patterns that seem permanent begin to loosen when confronted with authority. The future that looked uncertain begins to clear when obedience replaces hesitation. And as you step into this turning point, something else is about to be released. A covering prayer that seals what you have chosen today. What comes next will anchor this decision in protection. The turning point is here, and you have chosen not to delay. Now that you have chosen obedience over delay, this is the moment to anchor your decision in prayer. Not a rushed prayer, not a distracted prayer, but a focused, intentional, 5-minute alignment that seals everything you have declared today. March 18th is marked, and what you speak in this moment carries weight. Position yourself mentally and spiritually. You do not need perfect surroundings. You need attention. Take a steady breath and recognize that you are not speaking into emptiness. You are aligning your household, your finances, and your future under divine covering. This is where authority becomes action. Begin by acknowledging protection over your home. Heavenly Father, I stand today with awareness. I recognize patterns that may have operated in my household, and I refuse their continuation. I declare that my home is sealed. Every atmosphere of division, fear, confusion, or instability loses permission to remain. Peace is established here. Unity is strengthened here. Clarity fills this space. What entered quietly must now exit decisively. As you speak these words, visualize your household covered in light. Not dramatic imagery, but confident assurance. Your home is not exposed territory. It is guarded ground. Now move to your finances. Father, I bring my finances before you. I reject scarcity as my inheritance. I renounce fear-based decisions and chaotic management. I declare order over my resources. I declare wisdom over my choices. I declare protection over my income, savings, opportunities, and investments. Where there has been leakage, let there be stability. Where there has been confusion, let there be clarity. This is not about demanding wealth. It is about establishing stewardship and protection. Speak calmly but firmly. Authority does not need to shout. It needs to be served. Now address generational cycles directly. I acknowledge that certain patterns may have traveled through my bloodline, but they will not travel beyond me. What was tolerated before will not be inherited after. I stand in the gap for my children and future generations. Anxiety will not define them. Instability will not shape them. Conflict will not anchor them. A new inheritance begins now. Take a moment here. Feel the weight of that declaration. You are not only praying for yourself. You are shaping a different narrative for those who follow you. Now invite divine defense. Archangel Michael, defender and protector, stand guard over what hath been sealed today. Strengthen the boundaries established in this moment. Expose any hidden pattern that attempts to return. Reinforce peace where tension once lived. Guard provision where fear once operated. Let no repetition regain permission. As you pray this, understand that you are aligning with protection already offered. You are not begging for attention. You are responding to an alert. Now seal the prayer. I choose obedience. I reject delay. I close every door that allowed repetition. My household is covered. My finances are guarded. My future generations are secured. From this day forward, continuation without permission ends. I step into alignment, and I remain vigilant. Sit in silence for a brief moment after these declarations. Let the word settle. This silence is not emptiness. It is confirmation. You have taken action. You have moved from awareness to alignment. You may not feel dramatic emotion. You may not sense immediate external change. But something has shifted. When declaration meets obedience, momentum changes direction. What once moved forward automatically now faces resistance. What once felt inevitable now faces interruption. Remember, prayer is not a one-time emergency response. It is reinforcement. If you sense old patterns attempting to return, repeat these declarations. Strengthen them. Refine them. Protection grows stronger with consistency. This prophetic prayer is your anchor point. When doubt tries to whisper that nothing changed, return to this moment. When fear attempts to resurface, repeat your declarations. When financial pressure arises, stand in the order you established. When tension tries to creep back into your household, remind it that the door has been closed. March 18th is marked because you marked it. You responded. You aligned. You declared. The power of this prayer is not in emotion. It is in authority. Authority exercised does not disappear. It establishes boundaries. And boundaries protect legacy. You have now taken the decisive step. The alert was heard. The warning was understood. The turning point was chosen. And the prayer has sealed it. What follows next will confirm that this alignment is not temporary. There will be signs, subtle shifts, clearer thinking, calmer responses. I've stacked order. These are not coincidences. They are evidence of a door closed and a covering activated. Stand firm in what you have spoken today, because when obedience is sealed in prayer, protection becomes established, and what was once vulnerable begins to stabilize under divine guard. After a decision has been made and a prayer has been spoken, many people ask the same question: how will I know something has shifted? How will I recognize that March 18th was truly marked? The answer is not always found in dramatic external events. More often, the prophetic sign begins internally before it manifests externally. The first sign of alignment is peace replacing pressure. Where anxiety once felt constant, you may begin to sense calm clarity. Situations that previously triggered fear may no longer carry the same emotional weight. This does not mean challenges vanish overnight. It means your internal posture toward them changes. Instead of reacting with panic, you respond with steadiness. That steadiness is not accidental. It is evidence that fear has lost authority. Another sign is clarity replacing confusion. When cycles operate unchecked, confusion often surrounds decisions. You second-guess yourself. You feel mentally scattered. You struggle to discern which direction to take. But when alignment is established, clarity increases. Decisions that once felt overwhelming begin to feel manageable. You may notice that ideas come together more easily. Plans feel structured rather than chaotic. This clarity is a sign that disorder has been confronted. You may also observe subtle shifts within your household. Conversations may feel lighter. Tension may ease without dramatic confrontation. Moments that previously escalated into conflict may resolve more quickly. Unity does not appear as perfection. It appears as willingness. A willingness to listen. A willingness to adjust. A willingness to protect peace. These small relational improvements are not coincidences. They are indicators that atmosphere has changed. Financially, the prophetic sign may not immediately appear as sudden increase. Instead, it may begin as stability. Fewer unexpected disruptions. More disciplined decisions. A growing sense of control rather than helplessness. You may feel prompted toward wiser planning or clearer budgeting. When you follow that prompt, order increases. Order is often the first visible fruit of protection. Another powerful sign is heightened awareness. After March 18th, you may become more sensitive to patterns attempting to resurface. What once went unnoticed will now stand out. You may recognize negative language quickly and correct it. You may catch fear-based thinking before it shapes action. You may sense tension rising and intentionally choose peace. This heightened awareness is not anxiety. It is discernment. Discernment is a gift that follows obedience. There is also a sign connected to opportunity. When cycles are interrupted, space opens. In that space, new opportunities may appear. A conversation that leads to progress. An idea that brings breakthrough. A connection that opens a door. These opportunities may seem ordinary at first, but their timing will feel precise. You will sense that something has aligned. Do not overlook small confirmations. A scripture that speaks directly to your situation. A message that reinforces your decision. A sudden reminder of the prayer you spoke. These are gentle affirmations that your alignment was not in vain. Another prophetic sign is resilience. Previously, when challenges appeared, discouragement may have lingered for days. Now, you may recover more quickly. You may feel strengthened instead of defeated. The same situation that once drained you may now feel manageable. This resilience signals that cycles of emotional heaviness have weakened. It is important to understand that prophetic signs are not about spectacle. They are about confirmation. Heaven often confirms alignment through consistency rather than drama. Stability where there was instability. Peace where there was tension. Order where there was chaos. You may also notice something deeper, a shift in expectation. Instead of expecting struggle, you begin expecting stability. Instead of anticipating loss, you anticipate progress. Instead of bracing for conflict, you prepare for unity. When expectation changes, outcomes often follow. March 18th becomes prophetic not because the calendar chained you, but because you changed. You responded. You aligned. You sealed. And that alignment produces fruit over time. Be patient with the process. Some cycles took years to establish. Your dismantling may unfold progressively, but every small sign is evidence that momentum has shifted. Do not measure transformation only by dramatic breakthroughs. Measure it by consistency of peace, clarity, and order. If moments of doubt attempt to surface, return to what you declared. Remember the prayer. Remember the turning point. Remember the authority exercised. Doubt does not erase alignment. It only tests your confidence in it. The prophetic sign of March 18th will be recognized in hindsight as well. Months from now, you may look back and realize that something truly shifted on this day. A pattern did not repeat. A conflict resolved differently. A financial decision led to stability. A generational habit quietly dissolved. These are the markers. Stand attentive, not anxious. Expect confirmation, not spectacle. Remain consistent, not distracted. Because when a divine alert is received and obedience follows, signs appear. And those signs are not random. They are reminders that protection was activated, cycles were confronted, and a new inheritance began. We have come to the final moment of this message, but this is not an ending. It is a sealing. March 18th was never just a date. It was a line drawn in the spirit, a divine interruption, a warning wrapped in mercy. And now, after awareness, obedience, prayer, and alignment, it becomes a marker of protection. You heard the alert. You recognized the patterns. You refused continuation. You chose interruption. That alone has shifted something deeper than you can see. Archangel Michael's warning was not meant to create fear, but to awaken authority. You were shown that cycles do not have to repeat, that inherited struggle is not permanent identity, that silence is not safety, and that 5 intentional minutes can redirect generations. You sealed your household. You guarded your finances. You secured your future generations. You chose obedience over delay. You anchored your decision in prayer. And now you stand under the seal of divine protection. This seal is not emotional hype. It is alignment maintained. From this moment forward, your awareness becomes your shield. You will recognize patterns earlier. You will confront fear quicker. You will guard peace more intentionally. You will manage resources more wisely. You will protect unity more fiercely. And that vigilance will reinforce what was established today. There may still be challenges. Life does not become silent simply because alignment was chosen. But challenges will no longer feel like destiny. They will feel temporary. They will feel manageable. They will feel like obstacles rather than identity. That is the difference between repetition and protection. Protection does not eliminate storms. It fortifies structures. And your structure has been strengthened. If doubt ever whispers that nothing changed, remember this: cycles lose power the moment they are exposed and rejected. Even if you cannot see immediate grammatic evidence, momentum has shifted. The door that once stood slightly open has been closed. The permission that once lingered has been revoked. The agreement that once operated silently has been broken. Your family is marked for preservation. Your finances are positioned for order. Your future generations are covered by intention. March 18th will not be remembered as the day fear continued. It will be remembered as the day you stood up. Stand firm now. Maintain what you declared. Continue speaking stability over your household. Continue rejecting scarcity thinking. Continue modeling peace and discipline for those who watch you. Protection grows stronger through consistency. You are not alone in this. Divine defense stands with those who choose alignment. And the same authority that helped you interrupt cycles will help you maintain freedom. Lift your confidence. Do not shrink back into old expectations. Do not rehearse past patterns. Do not allow familiar tension to redefine your atmosphere. When you sense old momentum attempting to return, respond quickly. You now know how to close doors. Let this be the generation where it stopped. Let this be the household where stability became normal. Let this be the turning point your descendants will never fully understand because they will not carry what you carried. There is something powerful about being the one who breaks it. It requires courage. It requires awareness. It requires obedience. But it also produces legacy. You were not chosen to endure repetition. You were positioned to interrupt it. As we close, receive this final declaration. May your home remain sealed in peace. May your finances remain guarded in order. May your children walk in stability you fought to establish. May every cycle that once pursued you lose direction permanently. May clarity replace confusion. May confidence replace fear. May protection surround you in ways seen and unseen. You are covered. You are guided. You are positioned. Type IT is sealed in the comments as your final declaration of agreement. Blessing code 918 is now activated. Walk forward from this moment knowing that what was confronted cannot quietly return without resistance. You have stepped into awareness. You have exercised authority. You have aligned with protection. And what is sealed in obedience remains strengthened in time. What was sealed today must continue spreading beyond this moment. There are families who have not yet heard this alert, who are still living inside cycles they believe are permanent. When you support this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not giving to a platform. You are opening wells in dry places. The Lord says, "Test me in this, and I speak that promise personally over you." As you sow into the protection of others, protection surrounds you. I sense this strongly. This is not donation. This is divine participation. Let your seed become a prophetic act that says, "Cycles end in my generation, and freedom spreads through my obedience." Click Super Thanks, join as a member, or use the PayPal link in the description, or scan the QR code on your screen, and move now while the oil is flowing.